Do you often wonder why you find it so hard to change? Regardless of how much you try, you keep ending up doing the exact same things over and over. That's because behaviour change is complex. We want to be totally transparent. It's not easy.
But the most important thing to remember is that behaviour change is possible, because not only have we changed our own unhealthy behaviours over the years, but we've also seen countless clients do the same on our 8-week programme. So that's why we wanted to share our latest podcast episode with you, where we interview Dr Nicola Eccles from On Wellbeing. We dive into the steps to changing behaviour for the long term until it becomes a habit, and discuss why compassion is so key to transformation.
Hi, I'm James Davis.
And I'm Claire Davis.
We're the Midlife Mentors, here to lift the lid on how to achieve health and happiness.
The balanced, no-nonsense way.
Hello and welcome to another episode of Midlife Mentors with me, James.
And me, Claire. How are you all? I was going to say, what have we been up to? But we don't know when this podcast is going to be coming out because we have a very exciting guest with us today. But yeah, we're currently recording this just before your birthday, actually.
We are.
See, I'm giving you a shout out for
in a
your
couple
birthday.
of days. You know, presents and cards always welcome, listeners.
How old are you going to be, James?
I am going to be 51.
51.
Can't believe it. Can't believe it.
Yeah, so but we've had very cold weather
Mm-hmm.
yesterday and today, but we have a bit of trepidation about going in the Hampstead Heath ponds on Saturday for your
Yeah,
birthday.
we are. We're still winter swimming, so we're swimming in outdoor ponds on Hampstead Heath. The last time we went, it was just over 4 degrees, but I think when we go again on my birthday, we're probably going to be looking at 3 degrees if we're lucky in the water, and the air temperature is going to be below freezing, I think. So
Yeah, James,
that'll be a quick in and out for sure.
James has been trying to really man it out and not wear his little booties and gloves, but I've been wearing mine for
It's
the last
time for the booties and
for the
gloves,
last
for
couple
sure.
of times. I think when we got out on Wednesday, you regretted that,
I
didn't
did. My toes regretted it. Yeah, definitely.
So yeah, so we're in the winter swimming club, Hampstead Heath, and we're going to make the most of it.
Yeah.
But wish us luck, wish us luck. Anyway, without further ado, I think we should get on and introduce our guests.
Yeah, so today we're joined by Dr Nicola Eccles, who's head of mental health and wellbeing for On Wellbeing, and who is a behaviour specialist. And she's joining us to tell us all about On Wellbeing, which is a new, I guess, tech and app initiative to help people change their behaviours, which is something that we talk about all the time, and it's so hard for people to do. So it'd be great to get another slant on this. Nicola, welcome.
Thank you very much. Very pleased to be here on this frosty day, and happy birthday for next week or whenever. Yeah, I didn't get you
thank
anything,
you.
but hey.
Still time.
Still time.
I haven't Nicola yet, to be honest. No, I have. I have got
Doing
it.
it at Christmas.
It
It's a bit
is.
close to Christmas. I used to get it as a child. I used to get the old combined Christmas and
Oh,
birthday. thing, which is
awful.
a bit- Yeah.
Oh, let me get my violin out.
Yeah.
You poor thing.
Anyway, enough about me.
Yeah.
Nicola, you're head of mental health and wellbeing for On Wellbeing, which is a new app that's coming out. Can you tell us a little bit about it and how the concept came about?
Oh yeah, I will do. Yeah, really exciting, and also really pertinent to where we are right now. What we're trying to do, what I've been trying to do, I suppose, for the last 5 to 10 years working mental health, behaviour and digital applications, is to try and see where the gaps are. And it's no surprise to you and your listeners that we really are in a mental health crisis. It's not a tabloid headline. More and more people are struggling every day coping. And we can speculate all we want about the reasons for that: social media, hybrid working, our loss of a community. We can talk a long time about that, but the bottom line is that is where we are now. We've got, Mind the Mental Health charity call this the second pandemic, because obviously there is a relationship to what's happened, what's gone on in the last few years. And there's a 175% increase in people seeking out mental health services. So the figures are just not adding up. People cannot get the help they need. And most of us don't even want to seek help right? Because the hard to reach are hard to reach for a reason. So although we could look, if you like, at digital applications and phones as having some part to play in our mental health crisis, actually they're wide reaching and they're accessible and they're there all the time. So we've tried to build a product that's going to help everybody. And the next thing to say, I think, about the gap is it's becoming quite apparent that most of us just don't really have the skills to deal with everyday life, right? So we're here 50, 40, 30. I don't know how old you are listening to this, right? But I'm 50 and it's things are happening to us, things are happening and hitting us. And we're like, I don't have a tool to deal with this. Or even more pertinent to most people is, why do I keep finding myself in this situation doing the same thing and having the same problem, whether it's at work or in a relationship or in my relationship with my children? And then you realize that maybe there's a different way to do things. So the gap, I feel, and this isn't to take away from counseling and psychotherapy and pharmaceutical treatments, is that for many of us, we need to learn different ways of looking, of thinking, of speaking, in everyday life. So it's like a skill development app. So I like to call it the Duolingo of mental health apps, because we all know, it's like that's what we need. We need to learn differently, right? It's like a different language. That's how I see it. So that's what we've tried to do at On.
Amazing.
Wow, I think that's amazing. I love that Duolingo comparison there, because I think everyone will know that the little language app that's actually fun and kind of gamifies language, if you like. So I think that's a great way to approach mental health. I mean, you're right. I actually didn't know that figure about the 175% increase. It's huge. I mean, it's reflected to us all the time just by the conversations we have with clients and prospective clients, and obviously when we're out there delivering workshops and talks. It's obvious a lot of people are struggling across a number of factors with their mental health. So it's great to see the initiatives like this come together. How did you get into this? Where did your interest in behavioural sciences start?
I suppose, I mean, I have a background. I think you might have a similar background from we talked before in kind of sports science. Studied in London, worked as a personal trainer, did a sports science degree. Why is everybody not exercising? It's great for your mental health. It's great for your, it's great for your physical self. Why is everyone doing it? We all know we should be doing it. And interestingly, that journey from kind of sports science, and I started to work, my PhD is around like adolescent girls and their behavior around physical activity and the behavior in relation to their friends and who they are and their self-identity. So I kind of morphed into that. And then I suppose it was more like community health. I started working, I'm a long-time academic in different universities in the north of England around like, why can't we change? Why can't people exercise? Why can't they make the right choice to eat? And it slowly became clear to me that all this information we're giving people wasn't leading to any changes. So, from a public health perspective, we're spending billions of pounds telling people things, but it doesn't go anywhere. So knowledge doesn't mean action. And then I just became so interested in that intention to action and where is that bridge. And I became so interested in stories of like tipping points of like how someone had smoked 90 a day and then they stopped, or someone had transformed their life. And it's like, well, how do you do that? Because everyone else is sitting in the wings, just absolutely unable to. So that is how I became interested in behavior change in terms of our physical health. But then again, another little journey, it became clear to me that you can have all the couch to 5K, all the kind of little interventions we want around eating differently, around sugar tax, but ultimately a lot of the time we know we're self-sabotaging with our unhealthy behavior. We know we're not doing the right thing, and that is because mentally we're not feeling great in ourselves. So it all came back to mental health. In that, if you are feeling good, you have high self-worth, you're resilient, you're coping, you're more likely, not definitely, but you're more likely to make the right choices. And so actually what we need to do is help everybody to start to feel a bit better. But then it became clear to me that actually that's also a behavior change issue, because it isn't actually, we need to learn to feel better. We need to change our behavior. We need to take some accountability and responsibility for this. And of course, you know, for you listening, out there who might think, well, that's easy to say. Of course, I'm not talking about, clinical diagnoses of, bipolar or schizophrenia or, clinical depression. I'm talking about most of us who are surviving and not thriving. Like we can learn differently. So the journey from sports science into behavior change for mental health, because ultimately it comes back to that thing of, and then we will choose to make healthier choices, I think.
Everything you've just said so resonates when I do one-to-one coaching, and like James said, the people that we come across, it's such a self-worth issue. And like you say, it's not that easy. It's not like you wake up one day and you're like, you've suddenly been able to rewire your brain to have more self-worth. It's a process. It's a skill set, actually. It's a skill set. It's a skill set that a lot of us, we just don't learn this stuff, do we? Growing up, we don't necessarily have the right mentors, the right coaches. We're, part of what we talk about is that we don't have that connection and that community to as well to elders or mentors or coaches that kind of used to pass our ancestors that information down on how to look after yourself mentally. And I think the disconnected world that we're in right now, we're hyper connected but also disconnected, so those skill sets aren't necessarily talked about, they're not passed down, and people feel very alone, don't they?
We're all walking about with imposter syndrome, thinking, and what's made it worse is social media. We cannot take away from the fact that never before in history have we had 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, access to look at the lives of others, and the lives of others that are so orchestrated. And then on the flip side, never before in history have we been able to look at terrible news events at 2 a.m. or things that are really triggering. So we are constantly looking at things and never internally reflecting and decompressing. And we're all doing it. We're all glued to our phones.
And we've forgotten how to do that. And when we are feeling bad, we're trying to get relief in the very thing that's causing us to feel so disconnected. Because, like, I don't want to feel that. I don't even know what that feeling is. I just want to block it out. So I'm going to go for the quick fix of getting back on my phone, which is actually going to perpetuate this bad feeling of comparison. And it's so true, and it's so crazy.
It's highly addictive. We all know that the algorithms, the things that are in there, are made so that we are constantly re-looking and checking. And it is addictive. And the other thing is, through the perma crisis, I'm sure you've heard that word. So, the last few years were described as a perma crisis: Brexit, pandemic, cost of energy, cost of living crisis, Ukraine. And what's happening is that this kind of, this perma crisis has led many of us to have a low level of anxiety. Now, when we have anxiety, it ties very closely to addictive behaviors, and distraction are easily found in our phones. It's just like we want to touch them. It's addictive, and it's hell. And actually, for many people, I think, of course, I can't speak for everyone, but I think it masks an anxiety. It masks some anxiety.
Yeah, absolutely. It really does. And just what you said. I mean, I noticed myself doing that. Like, it's not. We talk about this, and because they are so highly addictive, sometimes I'll find myself, and I have to be really, really conscious, because it's become so part of everyone's life. But, I'll be sitting there watching something with James, and actually both of us will sometimes, even when the TV program is on, pick up our phones and start looking at that as well. And you're like, you're constantly on in so many different ways.
Yeah, and those constant distractions. I mean, we're constantly distracted, we're unable to focus, and then we feel shame about that too. So we're feeling shame about the fact we're constantly distracted, but it's not really our fault, if you like, because the people that made these things have created it so we can, we can't concentrate for more than about 45 to 60 seconds, I heard, without our brain suddenly just going up.
Apparently the human concentration span has dropped significantly in the last decade.
Yeah,
It's apparently left for goldfishes now.
And we
according to,
can't ignore this anymore. I mean,
No.
I believe there'll be a backlash. I mean, we've kind of gone off on a segue here, but I do believe that there'll be a backlash against our use of technology because of the impact it's having on our mental health is so great.
Yeah, and actually, really interesting that you say that. I've been having more conversations with people recently. Actually, I would say they're the Gen Zs. Okay, so they're not the millennials, they're the Gen Zs. They've actually said, you know, my friends and I, we've come off. We've actually deleted the social media apps from our phone because we realize it's so bad for our mental health and our anxiety. And I thought, wow, I do believe, I completely agree with you, Nicola. I
They
think
won't want to do the same as us because no generation wants to do. They want to be different, right? So the only beauty of what's going to happen is that the younger ones will be like, yeah, I don't want to be like them. Yeah,
I don't want to be on all the time. I don't
Yeah.
want, it's almost, and actually what I'm seeing is that they see it as a kind of a badge of honor, which I think is amazing. They're
Good.
kind of like, actually, I've managed to, you know, kick the addiction of being on my phone all the time. And they're very proud of that. And so they should be. So like, it's kind of one of those things that's doing the rounds. I think it's great, but lots more I'm noticing are doing that.
Yeah, and so you know the thing is we are doom scrolling as the word is, and I believe it's a way of masking anxiety quite often for many people.
Yeah, absolutely.
well, it's a distraction, isn't it? I think when we're not feeling comfortable in ourselves, when we're feeling that discomfort, we'll look for the distraction.
Mm.
And now the easiest thing is just to pick up your phone. Whereas maybe in the past it might have been, it might turn into another addiction. It might be food, it might be drink, it might be drugs. But the phone's available to everyone right there and then. It gives you that dopamine hit, so you get that feeling good.
Most people are doing all those things. The phone with the drink and the and it's so effective because you suddenly immerse yourself in the world of something else instead of sitting in the discomfort. So we're only human, literally, so why wouldn't we?
I was just thinking something else there. I was thinking, you know, because we're in such a quick fix society now and we can have everything, you know, we're told we can have everything, we see it all on social media, everything's quick fix. I think sometimes when we have these conversations and some people think about having to do, you know, what you've so rightly said is we need to build a skill set. It's a skill set of mental health. And I think that some people just think, well, I can't bother with that. That's going to take too long. I mean, that's a block.
It is. That's hard work.
It's hard work. Yeah.
Well, I was going to ask about that because you touched on it. You touched there about the gap between intention and action or result. And this is something I come across all the time because we do live in a quick fix society. If you said to anyone, do you want to be healthy, fit and healthy? They're going to go, yeah, of course I do. But it's like, you want to be fit and healthy, but you need to do X, Y, and Z. They're kind of like,
They'd still say yes, I think, but the thing is the actual doing it, and there are so many blocks. I mean, we can talk about those if you want. Talk about
the blocks.
So why can we not do the thing that we say we want to do? We're saying it. I need to stop drinking as much. I need to stop, picking up my phone. I need to stop being late. I need to stop procrastinating. I need to lose those 10 pounds. And the list is just endless. And why can't we? What's the gap between intention and action? Well, there's so many things to talk about here. I can kind of make a little list, really. One of the first things I'd say is the worst thing, and I don't know where this started, probably in the 50s or 60s when it first became clear we needed to change our kind of health behavior for cardiovascular reasons, is that people believe that the boot camp approach is going to get the change, right? So it's right. I'm terrible. I'm awful. I'm disgusted with myself. That's it. I'm throwing out every bit of food in the house that's got any sugar in it and clearing the cupboards. It's, lentils, pulses, and fruit only. That's it now. I'm terrible. And it's that boot camp approach that is the most likely thing to make you not change. How will you change is with what I call compassionate curiosity. So you would sit while you were drinking the wine and you think, it's interesting that I keep pouring wine. Why am I doing that? It's interesting that I'm going back to the fridge again when I'm not hungry. Why am I doing that? And when you use a voice of compassionate curiosity, you will get to the root. If you keep doing it, it's hard. You will get to the root of change. when you tell yourself you're terrible, you're not going to change. If your child brought you a drawing and you thought, God, that's horrendous, but you wouldn't say, what is that piece of rubbish you've just shown me? What are you thinking? You'd say, well, look at the color you use there. You know, you give something good to hang on, and then they go, oh, I can use color. And and it's the simplest trick in the book. You have to be kind to yourself. But for some reason, the mantra and the social media and it's tough, it's so hard. And we keep that going, that voice of, it's so hard to do it, but you've got to have the willpower, man. It's like, well, willpower is really limited, finite. Motivation, similarly, really depletes quickly. So we're all sitting there thinking, oh, it's so hard. It's going to be so tough, and it's like, well, and I'm such a terrible person. And so the first thing I think is, when I speak to people, I'm like, but don't be so hard on yourself. So compassionate curiosity is my number one thing. And I mean, interject as we go along, because I've got a long list here. The other thing that in many pieces of research I've done with large groups of people, particularly in midlife, is I will change when ...
Yeah.
The
Oh,
knee gets better. The daughter goes to uni. My
I have more
husband's got
time.
his
Yeah.
such and such sorted out.
After the holiday. Yeah.
After the
You hear it all the
holiday.
time.
After the
All the
holiday,
time.
after the holidays, my favourite one.
And you know what? 6 months later, 12 months later, you check in with them like, how? Oh yeah, I'm not quite ready yet, but after this next, yeah.
So, and it's really interesting because there's one very famous piece of work around change, which is called motivational interviewing, but it's many years old now, and it has some great concepts in it. And the readiness ruler is one part of that, and it asks you to really assess how ready you are to change. And the truth is, people say things, but they're actually not ready. And then you have to ask the question, and okay, so you could leave it there, but you don't leave it there, because you say, well, then what is it going to take for you to be ready? And they cannot, you often can't answer. And the other thing that actually motivational interviewing does, which is really important as a technique, is it says, right, what are the negatives of changing? Because no one ever thinks about that. They always think, I'm going to stop eating all these takeaways. I'm going to be bouncing out of here with glowing skin. My clothes are going to fit better. Well, guess what? What does having those takeaways mean? Well, having those takeaways means you work a bit longer, you maybe get to run your kids around a bit more, you don't have to go grocery shopping as much, you don't have to stand chopping food, you and your partner enjoy that, regular takeaway. It's something that she likes too. So the minute you suddenly stop having those takeaways, guess what happens? Your time's taken up. You're thinking, this is more expensive. Your partner's like, what? We always have a Chinese on a Tuesday. Why are we not having a Chinese on a Tuesday now? And so suddenly you're forgetting. So one of the things nobody does is they're like, what are the negatives of changing? There are negatives of going to the gym. You're going to lose time somewhere. You're going to have to buy some kit. You might feel out of sorts. Often the people around us have more of an impact on whether we change or not than we want to realize. If you suddenly say, I'm stopping drinking, how is that going to go
Oh,
down with, someone that you live with or your friends who, you didn't have to be a heavy drinker, but they're going to be like, but we always have a glass of wine on a Sunday. So,
yeah, it's really interesting, like, because we talk a lot about roadblocks. It's just made me realize that in a similar way, I think when we go through certain processes with our clients, especially on our retreats, and we've got them in a room, one of the things we talk about is like, what's some of the roadblocks that are going to come up? So in a similar way, like the negatives, what are the roadblocks that are going to come up? So you're already pre-set, like, so you don't get into it and then just think, oh, bloody hell, this is too hard. This is crap. And then give yourself a get out clause, because that's what's going to happen. You're going to be like, oh, this is too hard. That person doesn't like it. I'm now feeling bad. I've got to get. But if you've got a way already in your head of knowing what those roadblocks, those negatives are going to be and how you might navigate them, I think that kind of helps people a little bit. I'd love to know your thoughts on that.
yeah, well, you have to prepare. So, there are stages. It's like you have to prepare to change. Of course, we all love the story of, Uncle Bob who smoked 90 a day, woke up one morning, said, no more for me. And that was that. That doesn't happen for most of us because our behaviors are so tied into so many bits of our life. So you have to prepare the ground, and that is a bit uncomfortable. And you're like, oh, I just want to get started with this thing. But no, you have to prepare the ground. And then you have to look at all the different things, like who is it going to affect? What's going to happen? What gap is going to occur when I change this behavior? One of the most used kind of behavior change models, which came out of UCL, it's called the COMB model. And those letters, COMB, stand for capability, opportunity, and motivation. And we use it all the time. And when you actually, I won't go into it now because we'll be here a long, long time. But when you break the bits of capability down, of opportunity, and of motivation, you realize how complex changing behavior is, because we are habitual, and most of us don't love change. So there are loads of things that it's more difficult than I think we sometimes realize. So that's why you have to be compassionate. You have to lay the ground. You have to take it on as something you have to really, but then again, you don't want to make it as a massive piece of work, because then you're not going to do it. So you're going to have to enjoy it if you really want to do this change. And that's the other thing, isn't it? I mean, I don't know how you work with your clients, but you're going to have to get some enjoyment in this process of changing.
Yes.
Absolutely. I think you hit the nail on the head there. Behavior change isn't easy, and we're always honest about that. It's like, this work is not easy work, but it will make everything else easier once you've changed that behavior. If you've got the mindset like, oh, I hate going to the gym, if over time you can change that to, well, I love going to the gym because I like the way it makes me feel, I can see the results and get to it, and then it becomes part of your lifestyle, and you rewire your neural pathways so you enjoy the gym. Suddenly, when the alarm goes off, it's easy to go to the gym rather than like really having to force yourself. So it's about the hard work you have to do first. I love that, like prepping. Yeah,
you have to prep the space, but also, like you just said about going to the gym, people say things to me all the time like, I'm not motivated to go to the gym. And I'm saying, forget about motivation. Right? Motivation is irrelevant. You need a habit. If you're do you motivate yourself to brush your teeth every night? Let's hope not. So you need your gym bag packed. You need a habit. When you have a habit, you don't need any motivation, right? And I'm sure that you'll say this to your clients too. So for me, it's all about just keep building the habit. Just keep laying that down.
Yeah, absolutely.
I was going to say, let's break that down, Nicola. So say a listener has a behavior that they want to change right now, something that's holding them back in life. Like, how would they go about that?
I'd start, well, actually, first of all, I'd start with mental health. Let's go back to where we began. I started off, lots of research is showing us that post-COVID, dietary behavior, alcohol intake, and activity levels are not as I mean, they were bad anyway, the worst. But it's you can't change behavior if you haven't got good mental health. You can't diet away anxiety. You can't exercise away low self-worth. So although it's a bit of a pain, you just want to get fit, but I'm afraid you're going to have a little look inside first and think about your mental health.
Oh, I love that you're saying this. I'm grinning from ear to ear because it's so true, isn't it?
Yeah,
Like
of course
the stuff on the inside. I mean, like, that's what I did for years and years and years. Tried to, diet away, try to exercise it away, try and exercise away all the healing that needed to be done inside.
Yeah. Why is, the highest recidivism rate is with dieting, right? 99% of people gain the weight back. I don't know what the latest statistic is. And that is because, you're not looking at the thing that's there first. And it's hard. I know it's hard. So the first thing I'd say, if someone wants to change the behavior, is actually, I'm afraid you're going to have to let's have a look at your skills. Let's actually look. Are you living with low self-worth? Have you got some trauma? I'm sorry, I know that word. We're all sick of it now, but it's good. We're realizing things that happened in our childhood where they're coming out as behaviors now. Have you got low mood? You don't have to have clinical depression. Have you got low mood? Have you got anxiety? Where are you on that scale? So first of all, I think we have to explore that a little bit. And then if you say, well, yeah, okay, I think I'm okay, then you're like, okay, well then are you doing that boot camp thing, or are you doing compassionate curiosity? Are you beating yourself up? So your first step is your mental health. Your next step is stop giving yourself this terrible whip that you're beating yourself with, and start being kind. And then when you're kind, you begin to hear the answers of why you're doing the thing. You can't change the thing if you don't know why you're doing it, right? So then you'd look at kind of compassionate curiosity, I think. And then you'd listen to that voice. We've just touched on it. I will when. What's that thing? What is it that you're waiting for? The holiday. Right. And why do you need the holiday? What is it after the holiday that's going to change? So then you do your I will when check. And it's that readiness ruler. And then you'd say, right, what are the negative things of changing? What are the negative things of, whatever it is you want to do, stop smoking, exercise more, I know, stop looking at your phone. And that's when you really get the answers of, all right, yeah, I've got a lot of things that are tied into this behavior. And then you're preparing the landscape. What is it going to look like in my life when I have this different behavior? And then you can't put it off anymore. You've got to form that
Build the
habit,
habit.
right? Yes, you've got to build the habit. And when you've got that habit, you've not got to have the imposter syndrome. You've got to then believe you are that person. It's a long time ago now when I lived in London and I was a personal trainer. And this is even before I was doing behavior change. I remember I had a client, and I was trying to encourage her. In fact, I used to live near you guys, and we were going to go for a run in Hampstead Heath. And I had this client, I used to say, all right, you need to get some running shoes, because we're going to start running now. And I said, now there's a shop in Camden. God knows, I can't remember the name. It was in the 90s. It was the running shoe shop you'd go
Runners
to.
need.
Runners need.
Okay, so you've got to go to this shop. That's where I go. I go and get my Asics. You go and get yourself some good running shoes, because what you're wearing right now are from Marks and Spencer's, and they're fine, but they're gonna hurt. And she said something that was so profound, and it all came back to that identity. And the next I sent today, she said, but I'm not a runner. I'm not able to buy the shoes from Runners Needs because I'm not that person. So I'm going to stay in my Marks and Spencer shoes until I feel like I can go into that running shop. And I thought, well, there's the problem, because you don't believe you're able to go into that shop. So the block is also the identity. I'm not a healthy eater. Underneath, I'm secretly an unhealthy eater. I'm secretly really lazy. So we don't believe we're that person, right?
Yeah, and this is what we always say: you can't outperform your own self-identity.
Yeah.
So that's it. Like, once you've got this self-identity, trying to do all these external things, it's not going to work. You're going to have resistance to it. It's not going to work because actually you don't believe that you're that person in the first place. So yeah, but then what you've said and the nugget of it all is we have to learn the skills to build our own loving self-esteem and praise.
Yeah, well, I mean, self-worth is the foundation of psychological well-being, right? So
Absolutely.
there are for me, there's kind of 6 key elements of psychological well-being, but sitting as your foundation brick is self-worth.
Yeah.
And you're going to struggle to change any behavior, whether it's to do with your mental health, to do with your physical behaviors, if you've got low self-worth, because you'll not believe you're worth it, right? So
Yeah.
So true.
yeah.
So true. This is fascinating. So tell us a bit, when is On Wellbeing coming out, the app itself coming out, and how can people use it?
Yeah, we launched at a conference called Mad World actually in October, which is a big kind of mental health conference in the UK. We've got some big organizations trialing it with us right now. It's for organizations. So yeah, it's probably better to say that right now. It's not an individual license situation. It's an organizational approach. So we see, in the workplace, there's been this long pull, hasn't there, of are you responsible for your employees' health or not? Now, I think post-COVID, that conversation's transformed a little bit. Most employers know they have a responsibility.
Yeah.
But what they think they need to do is a gym subsidized membership.
Oh, I know.
Free fruit, some water. I'm like,
Free fruit.
yeah, you're not
Free
getting
yoga on a Friday.
Yeah,
Yeah.
free yoga on a Friday. Wear what you want on a Thursday. That's going to help you.
Yeah.
And these things are nice to have. But the bottom line is, for me, work cannot give anymore, and people can't give anymore. So we've got this real tension. The truth is, all work can do is facilitate. They've got a captive audience. We work much longer hours now, especially hybrid working. So they have a responsibility because they have our time. And so for me, what organizations need to do is to provide a number of tools for people. And you know what? The thing about the app, or what, you know, an app does is, it, as I think I said at the beginning, it reaches the hard to reach, because I'll tell you who goes to the blood pressure monitor checks and eats the fruit. It's the people that are already engaging with their health. The hard to reach, who have a long list of things that are going on in their life: separation, a child with mental health problems, caring for a parent, you know, a house with a roof that's falling in. Right down at the bottom is health. So the hard to reach are hard to reach for a reason. So you need to be able to provide something that they can access at any time of day in their own time, I think. So that's why we've got it from an organizational perspective. You know, it's difficult, isn't it? Because employers have always got to answer to the money and the, you know, stakeholders. But unless you've got people that are feeling good, nothing's going to work properly.
No, and like that is the thing about, that's why we love doing some of the corporate work that we do, is they are there. That's where they spend a lot of their time, and actually it's the perfect opportunity to be able to touch those lives when they're in an environment that they're in frequently, and a lot of their time is spent there. So yeah, it sounds really, really exciting what you're doing, honestly, and it's really, really needed. So huge congratulations on what you're doing.
Thank you very much.
It's been great talking to you. Thank you so much for your time.
It's been talking to you guys too.
It's been a great conversation, and I know so many people are going to find this, it will resonate so deeply. So thank you for coming on and sharing your knowledge and your wisdom with us.
It's a pleasure.
If people did want to find out more, where could they go to?
So just have a look for On Wellbeing. We've got a great website. You can contact us through that. If you're on LinkedIn, you know, we've got loads of posts of webinars that we've done. Last week I did a webinar on feeling overwhelmed. I know everybody will be thinking about that right now as we come to December. So yeah, you can find us there.
Awesome.
Perfect.
Nicola, thank you so much.
So much, Nicola. Take care.
Thank you. Bye.
Yeah. You've been listening to the Midlife Mentors with Claire and James Davis.
We'd love to hear from you. So drop us a line at info@themidlifementors.com with any questions or topic suggestions.
And make sure you join us on our Facebook page and YouTube channel. You can find us under the Midlife Mentors. Yeah.